combination of COVID-19 and the fallout of police misconduct involving people of color has made 2020 a year we will never forget. The short and long-term responses to the Black Lives Matter protests will hopefully have a beneficial impact on our country by providing a wake-up call that we are a long, long way from achieving a post-racial America. The impact of COVID-19 has affected all of us in a variety of interrelated ways. Our families, our health, our communities, our economy, our way of life, and our businesses. We don't have time to discuss all of the ways that COVID-19 has affected us. So today, we're going to focus on how COVID-19 has affected some of our corporate members. More importantly, we will address how they and their respective companies have pivoted in response to COVID-19 and what they see as longer-term changes for them and the work they do with diverse suppliers. I'm pleased today to welcome three of our corporate partners who represent three very different and important industries: higher education, defense, and medical devices. Please join me in welcoming Veronica, Martha, and Sakent. And let me just take a few minutes to tell you about our panelists today, because they're all very committed to the work we're doing with working with diverse suppliers and trying to build minority businesses. Veronica is the Executive Program Director for the UConn's Supplier Diversity Program and has been the program's leader since its inception in 2005. Martha has been the Sikorsky Small Business Liaison Officer and Supplier Diversity Manager since August of 2014. And last is Sakent. She is currently the Supplier Diversity Manager at Boston Scientific, and she's been in that role since December of 2017. So I'd like to welcome, and I hope you will join me in welcoming Veronica, Martha, and Sakent. I'd like to start with a personal question for the three of you. And just want you to tell us for a few minutes, how has 2020 impacted you? How have you pivoted so far this year personally? And how do you anticipate the impact of this year on 2021 and beyond? So Veronica, you want to lead us off?
Sure. So 2020 has been, it's been very, it's been a shifting kind of thing. It started for me, actually 2019 was a pivotal time for me because at the very end of 2019, I lost my husband unexpectedly. And then in December, I lost my boss of 10 years. Not to death, but he left our department. And so having invested a lot of our time of talking about and moving supplier diversity, that person leaving was unexpected and a change that we had to adjust to. Moving into 2020, we have a new person that has come in, but then COVID hit. And we were all sent home. And so there was the adjustment for me was a personal adjustment in that I could move from home and go to work and then come home and deal with the things of home. As of March of this year, I had to stay home and deal. At the same time, I was adjusting to not being in a department with the multiple bodies that I was interacting with on a daily basis. And so all of those adjustments had to take place at the same time because work doesn't stop. And because you want to make sure that things are not drying up on any vines in anyone's mind. And so you want to keep the conversations going at the same time. We are human. And so the adjustments, the personal adjustments and the business adjustments definitely intersected in a place that ultimately, I sit here now, seven months in from COVID and being sent home, thankful because I do have a job. I have a job that allows me to continue doing what I love doing. I can continue to help from this space that I'm in. And so it has been a shift, but it's been absolutely, we've learned some things from this in the way that we communicate and in our availability to each other, our access to each other. There have been some great benefits in being at home and being able to talk to people online as well, because that access seems to be a little bit more immediate and beneficial to those that we need to help. So hopefully that's it.
So Martha, how has 2020 impacted you, and how have you pivoted so far this year?
Well, I think that like the only similarity to other years is there's nothing constant but change, and so it's just a different type of change this year, and it has been quite an adjustment. I think we've all had to learn how to, as Veronica said, communicate differently, and I think initially. We were in kind of a holding pattern while we were waiting to see how and when this would transpire, things would change. And so 7 months into it, we're realizing that things may not change as quickly as we had initially thought. And so I think just having the flexibility and being open to this changing climate that we're now working in, and trying to make the best of it. It's very easy for us when we're working in our home offices, I think, it's much easier to become isolated. So I find that one of the biggest changes is it's not like I can get up from my desk and go talk to the buyers that support our Supplier Diversity program. And so learning to communicate in as meaningful a way as that in a remote world has been a big shift. And also not learning how to not isolate yourself is certainly we all get wrapped up in whatever it is that we're working on. It's really easy. Well, I'm sitting here, I'm going to do this and keep doing this, and kind of not work in a vacuum, but just isolate yourself. So I think that's an important lesson that we've had to learn as well.
Thank you. So Kim, what about you? How has 2020 impacted you, and how have you pivoted?
Hi, Peter. So, like Veronica and Martha mentioned, it's been a tumultuous year. When COVID first hit, like everyone else, my family and I were like, what is happening? Are we in the twilight zone? And, I think a great testament to us as human beings is our resiliency and kind of our adaptability and our ability to adapt to whatever situation we're in. And so I'm so proud to work for Boston Scientific, because I have to say that as a company, as an organization, as an employer, they've just done a tremendous job with helping us and supporting us in every conceivable way. And so, this is the year that my husband and I personally count as the year of blessings, because it's really made us stop, slow down, think about what's important in life, and it's made us really acknowledge the privilege that we have in life compared to the millions of people out there who have lost their jobs, who have lost their loved ones to COVID, who are really struggling right now. And I think that that's going to be our takeaway from this year, is really just, think about what you have in life, how blessed you are, and the privilege that most of us have.
Thank you. So Veronica, how has 2020 and everything that's happened impacted UConn, and how has UConn pivoted in response to all of these incredible developments this year?
UConn has been very, as I heard the word resilient. When we look at the number of students that aren't able to come on campus, they are working, they're doing their school work from home. they came into this experience thinking they were going to be on campus interacting with each other, enjoying the university experience, and they're at home in their rooms on their computers. But they are staying positive, and I have the benefit of talking to a group of students once a week, and just helping them to acclimate to all of this. UConn they've been smart about how the students, how many students to bring on campus. It's of course, it's affecting the budget, of course, the finances, because dining services, all of the different things where the revenues would come. If you don't have students on campus, then that revenue is not coming in. And so there's also the athletics, the sporting events, all of that has been affected by all of this. But the testing and all of that has enabled us to stay open, has enabled the students, those students that can be on campus, that have in-person classes, that they can be there, that they can experience some of it. It's not normal by any means, because they're missing a whole bunch of students that they would normally be interacting with, even on campus. But they are adjusting, and because of the testing that we are doing on a regular basis, and because of all the different protocols that they've set in place, we have been able to stay open. And so we're hoping to be open through the end of the semester. And basically, just keep moving into the spring, praying that this is gonna, we'll have the vaccine and we can get back to normal as we see it.
If there is such a thing anymore.
Exactly.
So Martha, what about Sikorsky, Lockheed Martin? How has it affected your company, and how have you pivoted? Well, how has the company pivoted?
So Lockheed Martin is considered an essential business, and so all of our business areas remain operating, and as a result, all of our suppliers are also considered essential businesses. And so we're very fortunate to have that designation and to be able to continue to support our customers across the globe, and feel very grateful that we work for this company that, like Boston Scientific, is very supportive of our employees as well as our suppliers. Having said that, Lockheed Martin has put some programs into place to help small businesses. So at Sikorsky, specifically in Connecticut, early on there was a task force identified to go weekly review our suppliers to make sure none of them were in distress as far as financially, being able to meet their payroll, being able to get the raw materials that they need to get to make our parts. Lockheed Martin, as a corporation, implemented an early payment plan for all of our small businesses, and so instead of our typical prompt payments, we've accelerated payments to the majority of our supplier base across the business area, to ensure that our deliveries and our customers' needs are being met as well. And that has a positive trickle down to our suppliers and consequently their supply base as well. I think that's probably the main, one of the main things that the company has done, in addition to making significant charitable contributions to those communities where Lockheed Martin facilities are located, including the state of Connecticut, and supporting school children in those communities, and veterans organizations as well, just to name a couple.
Thank you. So Kim, what about Boston Scientific? How have your colleagues and you been impacted, and how has the company pivoted?
So very much like Martha and Lockheed, Boston Scientific very quickly, formed a task force, kind of cross organizations, across the multi-disciplines within the organization, and kind of across all the countries that we operate in, And they did very similar things of monitoring suppliers, vital suppliers, and on a weekly basis. And I have to say that we're very privileged to work at a company where leadership just really, really values employees as being a pivotal part of the organization. And so very quickly we had innumerable resources at our disposal in terms of health and well-being, in terms of resources if you thought you had contracted COVID, right up to mental health, and resources to reach out to if you needed any assistance, childcare, elder care. So on those fronts, we were very well covered. In terms of supplier diversity, my quick reaction was to kind of implement an early payment term, just like Martha had mentioned. So what we've done now is on a permanent basis, kind of lowered the payment terms for small and diverse businesses. So they will be getting paid on a 30-day prompt pay system. And this will be going forward. This will kind of be way post-COVID. We'll continue to do that because we understand how important it is for their cash flow. And I think the other really important initiative that Boston Scientific has launched is the Combating Racism Initiative. So to counteract the current racial tensions that have been rife in this country ever since the passing of George Floyd, we have this major campaign that is led by senior members of the organization of our C-suite, and it has 5 pillars. So we're going to focus on education, community, healthcare disparities, government policies, and supplier diversity, which is essentially our economic empowerment arm of it. And our CEO has invested $2.5 million into this initiative over the next 2 years. So we have numerous initiatives going to kind of help our suppliers, our employees, and kind of all of our partners right now.
So because I know each one of you personally and professionally, I know that the 3 of you are very committed to doing business with diverse suppliers. And you know, by your actions and your programs and your results, that commitment has been really made manifest throughout the years. But tell me, has it been more difficult in 2020 to find and use diverse suppliers?
So I can start that. No, I don't think it's been more difficult. I think that the positive out of all these situations, if you could say that, is that there is definitely a greater appetite to use diverse vendors. Numerous corporations have come out and publicly stated that they have new goals to include small and diverse vendors. Some have gone so far as to say that they have specific goals for increasing their spend with Black-owned businesses, which is exactly what Boston Scientific has done. We understand racial disparities have been far more prevalent in the Black community than in any other community. So while we will continue to focus and support all minority businesses, we do have a special focus right now to support Black-owned businesses. And I think that a lot of companies are recognizing the need for this right now. Now is the time to really ramp up your supplier diversity programs, because that's what all of your peers are doing. That's what all of your competitors are doing. So the need and the appetite is definitely there.
I would agree. And I would also say that within our organization, so diversity and inclusion have been initiatives for some time. Due to the events of this year and the current climate, it seems that those initiatives have moved to the forefront, if you will, and they really do go hand in hand to a large extent with supplier diversity. One positive that I would note also this year is the fact that we're unable to travel, which is not great, but having the ability to do these virtual events allows you to have the chance to meet a lot more people than you normally would if you're working within a tight budget, which many of us do work. within. And so I think that's the big that's the biggest positive that I can see. And it's savings to the small businesses as well. If they can take if they can take an event like this right from their own facility instead of having to take time away from their shop or their business to travel to an event, I think it's a positive for both of us. And I see that trend continuing.
Veronica?
Also, the opportunities to meet new, I think the opportunities have increased at this point because of the, again, our vendors don't have to, come on our campuses, find where we are, find parking spots on already crowded and overcrowded parking areas. They can come online and talk to us, talk to our buyers. We can more easily schedule WebExes or whatever venue to have them face to face to know each other. That the good thing about this is that prior to COVID, we had set certain mechanisms in place. We had already put mechanisms in place to connect our small businesses and our buyers, because we knew that our buyers were already overtaxed in the office and couldn't necessarily go to all of the events with us. And so I established an online kind of mechanism to connect the vendors with the buyers in the office. Now the facilitation of a meeting is easier because they are sitting wherever they're sitting, and they can bring them into a WebEx room and have a conversation with them. It doesn't have to be a long conversation, but there's that opportunity there. The appetite, as Sakin has said, it has not dimmed. The appetite is there. It's a matter of, because we're talking about COVID, we're talking about a lot of things that happen in our individual offices. And speaking personally, a lot of shifts have happened in my office since COVID has happened. A lot of personnel coming and going, and what that means is that that response time for the vendor, that has shifted, and so we have to make sure that we're not going out and putting in the effort to engage these vendors and let them know that yes, there's opportunity at the university, and then they reach in and they don't get a response. And so that's something that we're working on as well. We're also working on making sure that the people that are in the individual departments at our university are our partners, because we can't be everywhere. We can't be in all of the meetings that they're in. And so we want them to have the same mindset, and at least know that the university is committed to a fair procurement process and an inclusive procurement process. We want them to go into those meetings with the mindset that we have, even if we can't be in those rooms. So we're building partnerships with those departments, as well as our own personnel within our purchasing department. We put together a video. It's a training and e-learning course. It's about 20-25 minutes, so that they can go through that course and understand what it is that we are doing as a supply diversity unit, because we're a unit of 2. And so that grows our unit. That grows our program. When we engage in the fall, we had 600 of our departments take this course. And so that's 600 partners that we have now through our university, in addition to the 50 people that are in my department that took the course first, because we have to be the leaders. And so the mechanisms that were set in place ahead of time are now, we can use those and build upon that, even in this COVID environment. Capitalize on that and have more engagement. That's where that communication comes in.
Thank you. So, it's interesting. One of the great things about having the 3 of you represent corporate America is that your respective industries have not been negatively affected as much as, say, folks in the airline industry, the hospitality industry. So one of the things I'm curious about, if you think about the impact of COVID-19, you think about all of the things that have come up in terms of, trying to address racial injustice in this country. Do you sense that there's been a shift, a structural shift in how your companies are going to respond to dealing with diverse suppliers as we end 2020 and start looking at 2021? Or is it just a momentary focus on what's going on in this country?
I'll answer that, Peter. So I'll start the conversation. I think that the diversity and inclusion initiatives that are being driven by corporate are being driven in direct result to the employees, and the employees asking for not just a seat at the table, but for visibility into these initiatives. And so the employee resource groups are have become a huge part of our culture, and they're going to stay that way. With regards to our suppliers, we are always looking for the best suppliers, and we'll continue to do so. Their size and their diverse status are not a delimiter, but they are an advantage. And so I think that we will continue to strive. We have company-wide goals as well as divisional goals, and we will continue to, our customer expects and demands that we continue to do better with those programs. And so that's not going away either. And we have high standards, quality standards, certainly, that I'm sure Boston Scientific does, as well as the University of Connecticut, with supplier expectations. And the suppliers that we work with, they rise to that challenge every year, and I'm sure they will continue to do so.
So I really agree with Martha. I think that, this is not going away anytime soon. With Boston Scientific, we've always had the interest in supplier diversity. Diversity is one of our core values of the company. And in fact, our D&I team is kind of well known across all industries for kind of the amazing work that they've done. So I feel like this year there was definitely an elevation of supplier diversity, not just at Boston Scientific, but across all industries with all of my peers that I've been speaking to. And no, I don't think that it's just going to be a short-term thing, because it is fueled, like Martha said, by the employees. It's fueled by the shareholders. It's fueled by our customers. These are going to be their demands in the future. And as the younger workforce comes more and more into play, they're looking for companies and what are their social responsibilities? What are the corporate social responsibility aspects for a company? So I'm very excited, and I think that this has definitely been a shift towards, kind of greater attention on supplier diversity.
So I have, we're a unionized university, and so we have a social justice committee that's part of our professional union. And one of the things that I did see over the course of this, as COVID was coming in, was one of those social justice committee members contacted me and wanted to know a little bit more about what I do. And that was a result, I think, of also being caused to have to take the course, the e-learning course, because if you were going to carry a pro card at our university and purchase things, then you're going to take on also the responsibility of what we stand for with supplier diversity. And so they had to take that course. That individual contacted me and asked, and we had a good conversation because he initiated the conversation, and he engaged his department and asked them, what are we doing? How are we spending, and where are we spending? And that kind of conversation, so that encouraged me that they're hearing me, they're listening, and that this is not just us. This is going to spread throughout our university, and so it encouraged me, because that's just a platform for other conversations throughout the other departments to say, how are we spending our money, on who are we spending it with? As we start messaging, as we start hearing the messages that are happening as a result of everything that's going on in our world right now, this is a chance for us to platform off of that and engage on the who are we working with, looking at the inequities and seeing how we can work to improve those inequities by the way that we spend. It's working with our diversity and inclusion office, who just, we just hired our new diversity and inclusion CEO or vice president. And so that person started in July. So that's a conversation that then lends itself to more partnerships throughout the university. This is a conversation that has to keep going on. It has to continue to lend itself to, if we believe this, then we have to not stand on, we've always done it this way. If we realize that what we're doing is not reaching the demographic that we need to reach, then we need to think about what the impediments are that are causing us not to be able to reach them. How do we do this better? And it's okay to have the mandates from the state of what your requirements are and all of that, but what is the heart of the university? Where do we stand, and how do we demonstrate that and not just verbalize it? We don't want to stand on just the letter. We want to stand on why is this? Why do we have these percentages, and why is this group still feeling like they are left out of this picture? How do we fix that? So that's what we can continue to work on, which is why this can't stop. The conversations can't stop. We have to continue to push harder and further until we realize what it is that we're trying to do.
Well, that's obviously music to my ears. So we got some questions coming in. So I'm going to try to paraphrase them so that we can, present them in a way that all of you can answer. One key question, Martha, something you mentioned, and everyone has touched on this. One of the impacts of COVID-19 is that we can't get together as we used to. And so we're using this virtual platform for a lot of different interactions. How can this virtual platform help GNE be more effective in helping you, our corporate partners, find diverse suppliers?
Great question. And I would have to say, and I think my colleagues here would agree with me, the biggest aid that GNE can be to us is to help us keep having these conversations. It's it's very important to have the business conference, the business expo, and don't get me wrong, nothing takes the place of that face-to-face communication, and we are all looking forward to being together again. But I think we all have a lot of things to do in the course of a day. Yes, I am on a team of 2 as well. And so I think that we look to our partners to help us keep that conversation going and keep us honest, if you will. I mean, not every connection is going to be an opportunity or an immediate opportunity. But sometimes we need help with the organization and making sure that we're getting to the right audience and the right people the right contacts are getting to us as well. And I think that's how organizations like GNE can help us immensely.
So Ken, Veronica, you want to take a shot at that?
Sure, I can. So I think, I of course agree with everything that Martha has said, and, we rely on GNE to kind of make those connections for us to help us find, vendors in particular categories. And I think, just keep doing what you're doing this way. We all live in this virtual world right now. So even, this format for this panel is amazing. I think folks definitely feel like they're getting a lot out of them. And I think that keeping the conversation going in this format is very helpful. It helps us to maintain contact. Thank goodness we live in the world of, video conferencing as opposed to just regular, conference calls. I don't think I ever want to dial, 12-digit conference number ever again. So I'm happy to keep these going, and if we can schedule, once a quarter matchmaking like this, that would help too.
I agree with both Sakina and Martha in that there is an accountability that happens as a result of interacting with your members. And because each interaction doesn't necessarily end with an immediate contact with that buyer that they want to engage with. It doesn't, so it's, the accountability is that they keep us alert to what we need to be focused on, because a lot of things come across our desks. And so we're in this direction and that direction, but we need to make sure that we are constantly aware that that person has not yet talked to someone that they need to talk to. They need to, they want to connect. They want to know when an opportunity is coming if it's not now. And so to make sure that our buyers are on their game and that the vendors don't feel like their voices are lost or that there's no door for them to enter at the university, it's important that we continue these engagements. And so the matchmakers, I hope that those will continue because those have been very beneficial. With just having that interaction with the MBEs as they come through, and even the corporate members talking to them at the matchmakers. So it's collaboration, it's all of that, because we I know it becomes a quote that we've heard often, but I don't get tired of it because we are all in this together. If any of us think that we're escaping this or it's discriminate in any way, it's not. It's touching all of us. And so we all need each other. That collaboration is really important. And so talking to corporate members as well as talking to MBEs, you bring us all together with those roundtables and those types of things. And so that's really, it's beneficial. So I would say keep that up as well.
So thanks for that input. So Ken, I'm in the same camp as you. I don't know if I ever want to do a normal conference call again. I like, whether it's Zoom or Teams or anything else, we just hit a button and you're logged in automatically. So let me just ask this quickly. Let's assume sometime during 2021, there's a vaccine, this whole pandemic gets under control. Do you ever see us going back to the way we used to do business with each other in terms of this virtual interaction? Does have its challenges, but it does for a regional council and for businesses like yours, which you have students, Veronica, all across the country. So Ken, you have customers all around the globe. Martha, you have customers all around the globe. If this pandemic is under control sometime in 2021, do you still think we'll be interacting as effective virtually as we are now?
So I think things will never go back to exactly the way they were before. I think that ship has sailed. We're all forever changed by this. Our organizations are forever changed by it. I think it could go back to some form of it, but it's definitely, virtual meetings and virtual conferences are definitely going to be part of the future. I don't know if we'll ever be meeting in as large gatherings as we used to previously. There may be subsections of conferences, broken down, and maybe this aspect of the conference is going to be at this location on this day and the other, and so forth. So I don't see the mass gatherings happening anymore. But I do think that we'll go back to some face-to-face interactions. I think that that's really important, and Martha had mentioned it earlier too. It is important to have that connection with folks. The advantage during COVID is that we live in the world of technology where we can have these video conferences and we can still feel like we're connected. So I think that we'll definitely have a new normal. I think we're going to use it as much as we can. I think we're going to take the advantages that now we have extra time in our day because we're not commuting anywhere. So maybe we could have one additional meeting with a diverse vendor. It's that hour or hour and a half or 2 hours back in your life that you can use, whether it's with your family or with your work.
Right. I would echo that as well, and just make note of the fact that all the employees within Lockheed Martin have been categorized from A to D. So A means you have to be in a site to do your job. So you're working on the floor, making the helicopter. But those of us in supplier diversity, purchasing, we are not required to be in the facility, and we may never be back in that facility unless we need to be there for some reason. And so I think that that is a distinct possibility. Initially, we had been told that our return to work might be early 2021, but it seems like many of us will continue to work remotely. And I agree, you can see a lot more people virtually, but I do hope that the importance of that face-to-face connection is not lost, and that at some time we will be able to meet face-to-face, and certainly could be in much smaller groups than we had previously. But I think it's important to keep that that connection going. I really do.
At the university, one of the things that we have benefited from is being able to work from home. Many of the staff, not all of the staff, because some are student facing, and so they need to be there for those students that are on campus. But the university was, they were quick to make sure that we remain safe, and they shot us off of campus. And so that's where we are right now. And as Martha said, the expectation right now is that we will be home until January. With the pace of things as they're going right now, it may be longer than that. And there are many staff who really don't want to come back to the office environment. And when you think about people that want to meet with us or meet with the purchasing department, having to trek from whatever state they're trekking from, and then come into our campus and find a parking spot. It's possible to find a parking spot. This is so much more beneficial that you are saving all of that time to be able to just click in on a Zoom or on a Teams or whatever it is, whatever platform you have, to be able to do that and have that conversation. It's also a situation because I just staying real. You know, buyers aren't always interested in having their days interrupted by the Supplier Diversity people to say, we want you to do this a little bit differently because, you know, we want to see how we can be a little bit more inclusive. So they're not going to be marching to your office all the time and very quickly. So this platform gives us an opportunity to ring them up and bring them on screen. If you don't want to come on screen, that's okay. We can have a conversation. And so that's given us a little bit more access even to our buyers. That's beneficial because they're the ones that are, again, not they're not student facing, they're department facing. So they're talking to the departments about what it is that they need. And so for us to be able to have the conversations about how can we help you to do your job better? And it also softens it so that it's not so much we're bringing you extra work, but we're trying to help you and see how we can make things easier for you, but while at the same time helping those small minority businesses that want to do business with our university. Taxpayers, you know, they're valuable products that they want to bring to the university, services. How can we engage and look at how we do things now that would maybe knock down some barriers and allow them to be a part of this conversation and this process that we have at the University of Connecticut. So going back, I'm not thinking I want to go back. I think let's go forward and like Ken said, let's take all the things the benefits that we've found in all of this and utilize that. Incorporate that. We're saving money right now. University is, these organizations that don't have their staff in the offices, they're saving money right now. Right. And so, capitalize on all of that at the same time that we, move forward and make sure that we're still advancing what it is that we want to advance. Take advantage of some of the things that we've gained and do better.
So one final question we've had come in, which I think is just really appropriate, in the spirit of looking forward rather than looking back. What advice do you give MBEs as we approach 2021 as to how they should try to do business with your, 3 companies?
Can I jump in there?
So for Boston Scientific, I can say, always be positive. You know, as Veronica had mentioned earlier, you know, don't give up easily. These things don't always happen overnight. We're not going to be able to just hand you a contract a day after I meet with you and talk to you. But do know that, you know, we take supplier diversity very, very seriously. When we tell you that we're using our supplier registration portal, I personally will stand by that we do use that. So, you know, sometimes you're just going to be told, please register in this, and we'll, when we have a need, we will search through our database and find you, and, you know, then do a qualification. So I would say, you know, just keep doing your best, keep working to improve every single day, find mentorship programs that are available through all of the organizations, through GNE. Boston Scientific is hoping to launch kind of our own mentorship program next year for our existing vendors. And I would say just keep at it, keep doing what you're passionate about, and there's definitely a space for you. You know, whether it's with Boston Scientific or whether it's with UConn or Lockheed, you know, we're all striving right now to do the best we can to promote supplier diversity.
I would agree. And I would make the suggestion as well, that find out what you're passionate about, and make that the part of your business that sets you apart, because that's what remains in people's minds when you walk away. When you walk away from a meeting, whether it's a virtual one or a face-to-face, and let that be your target when you go to any one of our companies and are looking for opportunities. What can you do that is going to help us, that is going to help our customers? And I think that absolutely maintaining a positive attitude in spite of some of the challenges that we face this year is critical. So networking and becoming part of other cohort organizations, whether it's through GNE or possibly veterans organizations or community organizations, take advantages of those resources, take advantages of the SBA and all the resources that they provide as well.
So at the university, just make sure that you know where we sit on the Supply Diversity program. We sit in the middle of procurement, both on construction and on the commodity side. And so we sit right in the middle, which means that if you feel that you're not getting a response from either of those sides, that there is a door that you can get into. If we need to be the ones to schedule a meeting with you and that buyer, then we will do that. We will work with them internally and do that. Understand that we are your advocate. It's different when you don't have anyone on the inside working on your behalf. We have our departments that have thought enough to establish a supplier diversity program within the procurement department. And so let's utilize that. Help us to help you as well. If there are ways that you feel that you are being impeded from doing business with the university, please articulate that and put it in writing. Send it to me, veronica.cook@ucom.edu. Send it to me. And so that lends itself to the conversation that I have when I'm in those rooms, talking to people about why we need to do things differently. And so if I have something to work with, you're helping me to help you. We want to eliminate all excuses for why you're not getting responses, why you're not getting an answer. And so if you help me, I will do my best to give you what it is that you are knocking to receive.
So thank you. So Veronica, Saken, Martha, as we close out the second day of our 3-day conference, I want to thank your 3 organizations for your support of not only the Greater New England Minority Supplier Development Council, but more importantly, of the goal of minority business development. So I want to thank UConn, I want to thank Boston Scientific, I want to thank Sikorsky, Lockheed Martin. And I want to thank the 3 of you. From my time as the president of GNEMSDC and before when I was in MBE, I've seen you 3 in action I know that you're passionate supporters of minority business development, and I want to thank you for that. And most importantly, I want to thank you for taking the time today to share your views about how COVID-19 has affected you, affected your companies, and how you have pivoted, both as a person, as a family, and your organizations. So thank you very much. And we're fortunate to have you as supporters of our goal of minority business development. And we're very fortunate to have you as supporters of the Greater New England Minority Supplier Development Council. So thank you. God bless.
Thank you,
My
Peter.
pleasure. Thank you, Peter.
Take care.
Take care.